Hello, everyone, and welcome to another PBBI event here at California State University, Fresno. We're happy to have all of you with us here, and we're happy to have you as part of our gathering here this afternoon as we focus on Filamentos and a little bit about what Filamentos is all about. Many of you have been following this platform of ours. It is, of course, intended, first and foremost, all of the things that we do at PBBI-Fresno State in this realm are intended for our students. We have this semester three Portuguese language and culture classes, so that's intended for the nearly 120 students that are taking these courses. But it's also, of course, intended for our faculty and staff and for the community in general. We always try to share what we are doing at PBBI Fresno State with the community at large. So I'm going to try to share my screen here to see if you can see it, and would like to have all of you, of course, look at this and see what we are doing at California State University, Fresno. And share with you some of our events that we're doing, and especially when it comes to PBBI Fresno State, especially when it comes to what we are doing with some of our platforms that have, of course, this goal of reaching more and more people as we try to bring more and more awareness of everything that we do at the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute at California State University, Fresno. So here it is. It's called Filamentos Artes e Letras in the diaspora, basically Filamentos Artes e Letras. We say, of course, that it is arts and letters in the Azorean Diaspora. And of course, it has to do with any diaspora that is of Portuguese, from the Portuguese-speaking countries. We have information that is very important in the cultural world to the Azores, to the archipelago of Madeira, to mainland Portugal, to the Portuguese-speaking countries in Africa, and to the Lusophone world in general. But we do focus heavy on the Azores, as it is the main purpose of what we do at California State University, Fresno, when it comes to the cultural aspect. So it is put forth by Bruma Publications, which is our publishing house at Fresno State. We'll be talking to you about that tomorrow at 3 o'clock Pacific time. So be sure to tune in, as we will feature one full program of about 25 to 30 minutes on Bruma Publications when it comes to what we have published so far in the last 2 years. We'll talk about this event that we'll be having tomorrow, because it will be actually commemorating 2 years since we launched the very first book published by the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute at California State University, Fresno, through our Bruma Publications, and in collaboration with, essentially, with Letras Lavadas in Ponta Delgada. Also, we've had other collaboration with Poética, Edições Poética, and also with Dois Caminhos from the bookstore Lar Doce Livro, that is owned by Joel Neto and Marta Cruz. And we also, of course, work closely with the press at California State University, Fresno. But our main purpose today is to talk to you about Filamentos that you're looking at right now. It is very easy to find. Basically, if you type in on any search engine Filamentos Artes e Letras, ARTES, so in Portuguese, E for and then letras, LETRAS. You can see it up here. It's Filamentos Artes e Letras .art. So if you do the whole thing, of course, they'll go right to it. If you don't, if you put on any search engine Filamentos Artes e Letras, it will take you to it. Anyway, and so this is funded in part by the Luso-American Development Foundation, FLAD, in Lisbon, Portugal. We're very, very grateful to FLAD for being a strong partner. It was actually with FLAD seed money that we began the whole process of the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute in late 2018, basically almost 6 or 7 years ago. Almost 7 years ago, at the end of September, beginning beginning of October, that we began the process of establishing what would be the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute that was officially inaugurated in February of 2019. So we've been in existence since February of 2019. Doing some work before that, obviously, things don't just pop up miraculously. It took basically about 4 to 5 months to put it all together and to be able to kick it off in February of 2019. So Filamentos-Arts e Letras has, again, the generosity of FLAD and their willingness to invest in some of the things that we are doing at PBBI-Fresno State. And every day we have at least, we try to have at least 2 different stories. This was actually going to be a weekly segment. In other words, our thoughts when we began was to basically put 1 or 2 or maybe 3 stories per week related to culture and this cultural dialogue that we'd like to have between the Azores, between Madeira, between mainland Portugal and the diaspora in all of the English-speaking world, but certainly in North America and the United States and Canada. And so that was the intent. The intent was to have 2 to 3, maybe a bit overzealous. Sometimes we would have 4 stories a week. It fastly grew at the end of about a month and a half to 2 months. It fastly grew to basically 1 story per day. And now there are many days that we have multiple stories or multiple pieces of writing. So there are many days that we have 2 or 3 or 4 different posts on this platform. And I'd like to explain what they are to you. So it is basically a cultural dialogue between the Azores. If we would get more from Madeira, and we're hoping to, we're in conversation with a couple different people that live there that could probably furnish us some of the details that we need. We would do that as well because it's arts and letters in the Azorean Diaspora. It can be arts and letters in the Azorean and Madeira Diaspora. That would be fine as well. We can't be obviously everything to all people. That is not the intent. And the intent is to have this cultural dialogue and for PBBI through Bruma Publications to be a facilitator of this cultural dialogue between the Azores, hopefully Madeira soon as well, and its diaspora in the English-speaking world. Obviously, not just in North America and the United States and Canada. It can be also in Australia. It can be in the UK. It can be in any other country that the language spoken mainly is English. But we obviously focus on North America. And so we try to take stories that are in Portuguese, that have to do with this ongoing dialogue that we'd like to have, and we try to bring them to you, of course, in English. And so that is the intent. The intent, and we're having a little bit of problem trying to get on this one. Hopefully, you'll get. Here we go. And so the intent is to bring them to you in English. This, however, different than our novidades, which is news and op-eds from the Azores. This one is around the world of culture, the writing, the visual artists, drama, musicians, etc., performing arts. And this is mainly in English, but we do have some stories, especially if it's creative pieces or literary criticism. We have those in the language, in the original language, once in a while, because we'd like to have this as a bilingual dialogue between North America and the islands. And so, for example, this one here is the title, as you can see, 4 musicians take to the stage at the 10th edition of the Cordas Festival in Madalena, in the island of Pico. This was from a press release from our friends at Mediateca-Arts and Terry Costa, who does a wonderful job at that promoting culture. He is a living cultural legend in the archipelago of the Azores. And so we also have today, these are stories actually from today, a little bit of information on Brad Angija, who is a Portuguese American who lives in the Bay Area, very involved in the Portuguese American community when it comes to culture. He is a cardiologist, a practicing cardiologist, and he is also a writer and just published his first novel. And we have a little bit of the novel here. We have the title of it, which is called Volta, Portugal, a novel by Brad Angija, and we highly recommend it. As you can see there, we've made it easy for those of you who want to purchase it. You could just click on it, and it'll take you to it's available through Amazon as well. And then we have ongoing segments, such as this one called The Insurgent Muse, Natalia Correia in translation. poetry and creative works for a new world audience. So it's Natalia Correia. The segment, again, is a voice of freedom, love, and imagination now for the world. And we try to bring you about every 9 to 10 days a story about that Natalia, or something that Natalia has written, a piece, whether it be in poetry or in an essay or fiction, and translate it to English, bring it to you. Here is the reason why we do this. Here's our vision and mission statements. And of course, this project here is sponsored in part by the Luso-American Education Foundation. We also thank the Luso-American Education Foundation for being a partner with us on this venture. And here we have a bit of an ad for the upcoming 49th annual conference of the Luso-American Education Foundation, with the title Global Village: Portugal's Diaspora as a Fountain of Culture, Memory, Connectivity, and Innovation. It happens on October 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, online through PBBI and Luso-American Education Foundation. So it is a Luso-American Education Foundation conference, but it is being hosted by the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute at Fresno State, and all online. We have a lot of other stories, so as you can see, there's quite a few others there. Most of them still in English, but there's a few of them. Like we have one of our collaborators that we are very grateful is the writer José do Carmo Francisco, who lives in the Azores. And he writes these wonderful, small, but very interesting pieces, in this case about a writer, Blarmino Ramos, and his new book, Cancela de Água. As you can see, this one is in Portuguese, so we kept it in the original language that the writer wrote. We have another segment called Roots and Wings, Portuguese Poetry in Translation, where we take a poem from a Portuguese poet, obviously, and the idea is to bridge oceans, one poem at a time. This is another segment that appears about every 9 to 10 days through Filamentos, through this online platform. Here's a few others. There's a wonderful literary analysis by our good friend Humberto Freitas, who is the prominent literary critic, the most well-known in the Azores and in all of Portugal, very well-known, and throughout the communities as well. He wrote about an excellent poet, Emmanuel Jorge Botelho, about his new book of poetry. And so it's a complete essay written, and very well written as always, by our good friend Humberto Freitas. Again, that one is in the original. Once in a while, we'll take some pieces like this one from poet Aníbal C. Pires that he wrote in one of the newspapers, Diário Insular. It's a wonderful creative pieces, analysis at the same time, called Memory and Forgetting. And this one we translated to English, so here it is in English as well for those who are interested. So many of the things that we have are indeed in English. I would say it's about 80% in English, 20% in Portuguese, but we are proud of keeping the language alive. We want to keep Portuguese still as a reference, especially on this platform. So we're very, very happy to keep these. As right here, we have another writing by author José do Carmo Francisco about the writer Norberto Avila, who unfortunately passed away in 2022, so in just about 3 years ago. Will be 3 years next week, and we'll be talking a bit more about that as well. So this is, as you can see, our Filamentos, lots of different things, lots of news, cultural news about the Azores, lots of these different segments. This is another one that's in Portuguese. It's called Cânticos do Mesmo Sal, and com poesia, in this case, poesia of our good friend, the poet Rose Angelina Batista, who lives in Florida. She writes, she's a bilingual poet, complete bilingual poet, but these are in Portuguese. And so this segment, Cânticos do Mesmo Sal, will feature, again, about every 9 to 10 days, a poet from the Portuguese-speaking world, mostly from Portugal, Brazil. Of course, that includes the islands of the Azores and Madeira as well. And these will be in Portuguese. These will be in Portuguese, Cânticos do Mesmo Sal. There are other features as well that we have on here. Another one in Portuguese is the Aqui Dali, Agora e Antes. It's a wonderful piece of writing on a continuing basis. Again, we publish them about every 10 to 12 days by Paulo de Souza Lima, whose book, Os Velhos, the Elderly, has been translated to English, and it's available through Bruma Publciations. We'll be talking about that tomorrow. And these are wonderful written. Paulo writes extremely well. It's called Viagem de Alma no Tempo e no Espaço, talks about her visits to Rome, the Eternal City, and it is a wonderful piece of writing for those of you who read in Portuguese. Now, some of these, such as Paulo de Souza Lima, it is our intent when she finishes this segment to translate him, not to maybe, to translate him to English and to bring him to you, but that will be in the forthcoming months, obviously. And so lots of different things that we have. One other segment that I'd like to, or two other actually. One of them is this one here called Constelações do Exílio e do Regresso, or in English, Constellations of Exile and Return. And again, we feature this is bilingual work, so we will feature a poem in Portuguese and in English. Okay, so in both languages. For those who want to read it in Portuguese, of course, can. Those who do not read Portuguese can follow along in English. And it is a way to keep both of our audiences, as again, most of our product is in English, about 75 to 80% in English, about 20% more or less, 20 to 25, depending on the week, in Portuguese. This one is completely bilingual. Constellations in the plural of Exile and Return. And in Portuguese, Constelações do Exílio e do Regresso, as the byline says, where Luso-Afro-Brazilian voices cross oceans and remake the world in verse. So we have these from all of the different cultures, I should say, of the Portuguese speaking world. So it is completely bilingual. There is one other segment that I'd like to talk to you about, because again, it comes out about every 9 or 10 days, and it's called The House of Many Shores. Poetry in English translation from the Portuguese speaking world. So these are poems in English that have been translated, and they'll be published only in English. And in this case, it was from the Cape Verdean poet Vera Duarte, a book that we had the great pleasure of publishing. We, Bruma Publciations, with Letras Lavadas. It's called Between Words, a collection of poems by Vera Duarte, available to purchase, and you can also get that. Actually, here's the information below the book if you want to order it. That's up to you. And so again, that is another segment that is about every 9 or 10 days, The House of Many Shores, and we're very happy to bring that to our to those who follow this as well. One other segment that we have is called Whispers of the Atlantic, and these are legends. And this one, it was from the smallest island in the Azores, the island of Corvo. These are legends that, again, about every 10 days, that we'll be putting one forth. So basically, 3 a month is, in some months will be 3, some months might just be 2, but every 10 days or so, you'll see Whispers of the Atlantic. If you're interested in legends, maybe some that you heard from your grandparents or great-grandparents, or you're not of Portuguese background or Azorean background or Madeiran background, but you've heard, of course, legends from your own tradition. It's always interesting to compare these, from the Hispanic to the Portuguese, from the French to the Portuguese, from the Germanic cultures to the Portuguese, etc., the English cultures as well. So it's called Whispers of the Atlantic, Legends of the Azores. It is with you every 10 days or so. I'm just focusing on the different segments that we bring. There's, of course, news all the time. There are written pieces by other people. We have one segment in Portuguese on a continuum basis from my good friend Humberto Freitas, literary critic, as I mentioned before. It's called Do Atlântico e do Mundo, or better yet, Do Atlântico ao Mundo. As Análises Literárias de Humberto Freitas. These are literary analyses that Humberto has done throughout the years. They've been published in his books. They are in Portuguese, but I think it's important to revisit Humberto's work, to see how, nowadays people talk a lot about Luso-America writing and Luso-American authors, which we have some great Luso-American authors throughout the communities, and Luso-Canadian as well. But and people are writing about them, not as much as they should, but they are. But Humberto was doing this 30 plus years ago. So what might be a fad today, Humberto has been doing for over 3 decades. And as a cultural dialogue between the Azores and its diaspora, it's our responsibility at Filamentos-Arts e Letras to bring again one of these literary essays from Humberto Freitas. We try to bring him about every week, 7 to 10 days, to you as well. Again, they are all in Portuguese. Other segments that we have, there's lots of others. I'm not going to take too much of your time, but there is one here by Lélia Pereira Nunes I'd like to mention. She just published a book called Casa do Tempo, or House of Time, and it's a collection of different essays. And we've been translating those, and we've been putting them in English with her authorization, of course. And this one is about the city where she lives, Florianópolis in southern Brazil. Translating to English because I think it's a wonderful way for those of us who are of Portuguese background, whether we are second, third, fourth, or fifth generation, those of us who aren't but are interested in the different cultural connections, to see this great cultural connection between Brazil, especially southern Brazil, and the Azores, even after the immigration has ceased. Immigrants and those who went to the colonizers, basically, that went to Brazil was over 250 years ago. And so we've translated these to English. We feature them about, again, this case, about every 10 to 12 days, and to show the cultural connection between the diaspora, all of the diaspora, whether it be North America, whether it be Brazil and Bermuda and other parts of the world as well. So we highly recommend that you tune those in. They appear, like I said, every 10 to 12 days. They take a bit of work because there's lots of translation, lots of looking at them again. And so it's kind of it's unique and it's interesting. It's hard work, but I think our community deserves it. And actually, it's important that our community and those who do cross-cultural work understand what is going on with the Azorean diaspora. So talking about the diaspora, another segment that we've had, and we've had over 40 published, I think now 43, which is The 10th Island by José Andrade. He has been involved in the Azorean communities and culture for a very long time. He was a broadcaster, became involved in the political world. He is now the regional director for Azorean communities. And he has been writing extensively about the different diaspora communities of Azorean background. This one here is the Azores at the end of Brazil. So he has these very interesting columns that he's written in his book. He's allowed us to translate it. And hopefully one day we'll have a book with all of his works on there, or the ones that are pertinent to the Azorean diaspora in English. And so we are happy to feature that. Again, we try to feature The 10th Island by José Andrade about every week. Sometimes it's not every 7 days. Sometimes it'll take 8 or 9, but we try to feature 3 to 4 per month. And we've been pretty good, very good, actually, I think, about doing that on a constant basis. We're happy to do it. One other segment is called The Second Voice of the Sea, and this is Azorean poetry that has been translated to English, and we bring it to you again. This is brought to you by Bruma Publications. We remind you of some of our books, like Into the Azorean Sea, which is a bilingual anthology of Azorean poetry with over 100 poets in both Portuguese and English. And this is a segment that we'll be bringing to you again about every 9 to 10 days, the second voice of the sea. This, besides all of the other things that pop up and that we feel are important, and we try to bring as much as we can, a variety of voices, a variety of people, a variety of themes, mostly, as I said, in English, but with a few of them in Portuguese as well. And then we have obviously some different segments that we have. For example, we had a segment called 30 Luas para o Álamo, 30 Moons for Álamo Oliveira, and it was done as a homage to Álamo, as a tribute to him when he passed in May. I should say, let me backtrack again. He passed in July, on July 7th, and we began a 30-day tribute to him. And we do this occasionally when it comes to someone who has passed or an event that is going on. So we have these segments as well. Again, it's called Filamentos-Arts e Letras. It's at your disposal. Please use it. We use it for our students in our culture classes. And it is funded by FLAD from Lisbon, Portugal. We also have the collaboration of the Luso-American Education Foundation, who also gave us a grant to help our work and to help pay for the expense of upkeeping this. This is all done as a labor of love. And when it comes to me, I don't get paid, fortunately or unfortunately. I don't get paid any extra for doing this. I do it because it is important for our students to have this cultural connection with the Azores and hopefully soon with Madeira on an ongoing basis. It is important for artists, writers, poets, musicians, visual artists, performing arts to have this cultural connection as well for those who are in the arts in the diaspora, who are second, third, fourth generation, who no longer read Portuguese, to understand the creativity of the Azores, and also for the Azores to understand the creativity and our commitment here, especially at PBBI Fresno State, with the arts and with this cultural connection between the Azores and its diaspora. Again, free of charge, Filamentos-Arts e Letras.art, or through any search engine, just Filamentos Artes e Letras. And very quickly, why call it Filamentos Artes e Letras? Because in the 1990s, began actually in 1990 and ended in 2002. So during 12-year time span, we had an event here in the Central Valley, in the city of Tulare, a symposium called Filamentos de Herança Atlântica, Filaments of the Atlantic Heritage. This event was put forth originally by the Portuguese Center, the Centro Português de Evangelização e Cultura, for 12 years. It was kind of a cultural retreat for about 3 days. It then grew to about 3.5. One year, I think we overzealous and did it almost a week during the 25th anniversary of the 25th of April Revolution in Portugal. We had a week-long series of events, but most of it was basically on sometimes it would start on a Thursday evening, but most of the time it was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. For a while, there was also done with the festa that was held in Tulare for quite a few years called Festa do Imigrante. We did the cultural part on Friday and Saturday, Thursday evening, Friday and Saturday. They did the recreational part on Sunday, and also there was a mass. So there was a religious component and a recreational component as well. And then it ended. It was a 10-year project that I put forth when I was cultural director at the center, no Centro Português de Evangelização e Cultura. And then it was a 10-year project, but then it just grew. There was a couple of other loose ends that we wanted to tie, and so it grew to a 12-year project, and it ended in 2022. Now it came back. Now it's online through PBBI at Fresno State. We have this event actually in May when it was held. Usually we try to do it now in April, but it was usually held here at the end of April or beginning of May. But because of our classes and the end of the semester, we try to do it at the end of April. And we've been doing it for the last 3 years online. And so now we've actually had 15 of them, 12 in person in Tulare, California, between 1990 and 2002. And then we had exactly another 3 now online at PBBI Fresno State. So that is the reason why it was such an important event. It kind of changed Tulare. It changed the perception that people had about the valley in the Azores. A lot of literary works, poetry and essays and fiction. Indeed, 2 books were written. One of the best Azorean books about immigration, which is I No Longer Like Chocolates by Alan Oliveira, and a wonderful book of poetry called My Californian Friends by Vasco Pereira da Costa. So there was actually some literary publications that came out of it, but lots of essays were published, lots of studies were done around this symposium, lots of individual poems were published in anthologies and different cultural supplements. So it was really a unique cultural project for the community. It was this kind of a retreat with about anywhere between 25 to 30 writers, musicians, poets, performing artists, visual artists, academics, cultural activists, and then also people from the community joined in. Some of our sessions used to have 80, 90 people, which of course is not a festa with 5,000, but it was really an interesting concept. We brought the people in attendance were from the Valley, were from Northern California, from Southern California. and it kind of brought us together for a weekend retreat to discuss all these things. It was a wonderful arts and literary project, but also a very important cultural dialogue. And so from that name, Filamentos Atlântica, we wanted to carry this forward with this dialogue now in a cultural platform available to everybody. And by the way, when you look at Filamentos-Arts e Letras, on your screen will be different than mine. On your screen at the bottom, you can become a subscriber free of charge. No questions asked. We don't sell your email or anything like that to anybody. All you'll do is get basically a notification when something comes out that is from Filamentos. It'll be the topic will be there, the title. And so you can, if it's in Portuguese and you read Portuguese, obviously you may not want to look at it, but only about 20% of our things are in Portuguese. Most of it are in English. And if it's in English and it's a topic that interests you, you can check it out. If it's a topic that doesn't interest you, then you know that you don't have to bother with Filamentos for that day. Again, thank you all for joining us. Thank you for your support. On behalf of PBBI, the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute at California State University, Fresno, we thank you for your attention. We wish you a very pleasant afternoon. Take care.